The millionaire laughed until he lost his breath upon seeing a black, homeless man. Leonard stood at the edge of his glass penthouse, the city sprawling below like a glittering playground, meant only for him. The sun bounced off skyscrapers, sharp and cold, just like his smirk. He was a man who had it all. The cars, the money, the empire. His arrogance stretched as high as those towers, untouchable and unshaken. He'd mapped every deal, controlled every risk. Nothing slipped through his fingers. Nothing. Or so he thought. That sunny afternoon, something pulled Leonard away from his fortress of steel and glass. The city noise softened as he wandered into the local park. A patch of green chaos surrounded by honking cars and shouting street vendors. Kids ran laughing, dogs barked, and the air tasted like grilled hot dogs mixed with fresh-cut grass. The whole scene was alive, warm, and loud. Then, out of nowhere, Leonard's gaze caught Samuel. The man looked like he didn't belong. Dirty clothes, a worn blanket draped over his shoulders, eyes sharp and calculating, soaking in every sound. Samuel was known around the neighborhood. A homeless black man with a razor tongue and a way with words. People said he was crazy. Others called him a poet. Leonard let out a cynical laugh, loud and sharp. "You think words mean something when you're down here?" Leonard snorted, leaning closer, his wealthy sneer cutting through the summer heat. Samuel just smiled, a slow, knowing curve. Without missing a beat, he started reciting a poem. His voice was rough but steady, edges jagged with truth. Glass towers rise, but shadows fall deeper. A father's ghost whispers, closer than you think. Leonard's laughter caught in his throat. The words hit like ice water. A lump tightened deep inside, around his chest. His hands trembled slightly. The other park-goers slowed down, curious whispers floating through the air. The sharp wit and strange honesty cracked something Leonard buried long ago. The sun dropped lower, turning everything golden. For a moment, the cheerful park became a quiet stage of tangled emotions. Secrets crushed inside two lives began to swirl and mix, like smoke twisting in the breeze. Leonard's heart pounded. The rough edges of Samuel's poem peeled back old scars about Leonard's father's death. Scarred memories he'd shoved away to build his perfect world. "Your father, he didn't die by accident," Samuel said, voice low, heavy, eyes locking on Leonard's. The crowd edged closer, sensing the battle beneath the surface. Leonard's world cracked open. His empire, built on power and secrecy, threatened to fall. His mind raced. Could he keep living this lie? Could he face the truth Samuel laid bare? Their debate ignited something raw and painful. Laughter faded, replaced by tears Leonard didn't expect. A question hung in the air, thick and fragile. Could Leonard find back the man he lost beneath the mask of wealth and pride? As the sun slipped behind the city, long shadows spread across the park like fingers reaching out. Samuel's gaze pierced Leonard's soul, daring him to choose. Hold tight to his riches, or surrender to the truth unraveling his life, thread by thread. What would it be? Laughter or sorrow? Pride or pain? The clock was ticking, and no one knew what would come next. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Leonard's heart raced as he locked eyes with Samuel. Time froze, the bustling park fading into a blur. In that tension-filled moment, everything felt intense and strange, almost surreal. The air crackled like electricity, and the crowd held its breath, caught in the gravity of this unexpected exchange. Your father, he didn't die by accident. Samuel's voice cut through the haze like a knife, and there was a raw honesty in it that sent chills down Leonard's spine. Before Leonard could respond, a loud crash shattered the stillness. Everyone turned their heads toward the sound. A truck had barreled into the park, tires screeching against the pavement, scattering people in all directions. Panic erupted. Parents grabbed their children, and people darted for safety. Samuel stood his ground, steadfast, his eyes still locked on Leonard. The truck driver had jumped out, breathless and wild-eyed. "Someone call an ambulance!" he shouted, pointing a trembling finger toward the grass. Leonard followed the direction of his gaze, and his stomach dropped. It was a woman, lying motionless amid the chaos. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised. Panic exploded in Leonard's chest. This was no ordinary incident. As people rushed forward, he pushed through the crowd, heart pounding with an urgency he had never known. "Get back! Ah!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. He knelt beside the woman, his hands shaking as he checked for a pulse. Oh, there it was, a faint thumping beneath his fingers, but it quickened and slowed, matching the frantic rhythm of his own heart. "Is she?" Someone in the crowd gasped, peering down at the scene. The urgency in the air thickened. "Stay back! Give her space!" he commanded, his voice a mix of frustration and fear. He glanced up, catching Samuel's eyes again. The man didn't flinch. He observed, his expression steady and calm, as if he had seen tragedies like this before. Which, in a way, Leonard realized he probably had. Then, without warning, Leonard heard a faint but familiar voice, barely above a whisper. "Leonard." It was her! The woman's eyes flickered open, confusion clouding her gaze as she looked at him. Leonard's heart surged, hope surging with it. "Rita?" he breathed, recognizing her immediately. An old acquaintance, someone he once cared for deeply. The world around them seemed to melt away. "Help me," she murmured, and Leonard felt the weight of their shared history wash over him. Memories of laughter, warmth, and love mixing with the bitter chill of the present. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Someone gasped, recognizing Rita too. "Isn't she?" a voice trailed off. Leonard's breath caught in his throat. The truth slipped from his lips like a secret poison. She was supposed to be gone, lost to him in that dark chapter of his life he had tried so hard to forget. You were dead. But she grimaced, pain flicking across her face. Not dead, Just hidden. They made me disappear. Samuel's eyes widened slightly, as if a ghost had passed through him. The crowd was still, breathless. The weight of the world was crashing down on Leonard, secrets unraveling around him. Leonard's past began to shake his foundations. "What do you mean?" he managed, desperate for the answers he never knew he needed. The truth loomed above him, heavy and unyielding. Just then, Samuel spoke again, his voice low and deliberate. "Time to wake up, Leonard. Everything you hide will find the light." A chill ran through Leonard. The park began to spin. His empire, his pride, everything was crumbling. He looked between Rita and Samuel, caught in a web of confusion and revelation. One final choice loomed ahead. Would he face the shattered remains of his past, or cling to the false glory he built upon lies? In that moment, beneath the trembling sky, everything shifted. The ground beneath him felt less solid, less safe. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of his shiny empire? The answers felt close, yet curled out of reach, leaving Leonard teetering on the edge of ruin and redemption. The sun sank lower in the sky. The park bathed in twilight hues. Leonard stood frozen, Samuel's words slashing at the shame he'd buried. The onlookers held their breaths, the tension thicker than summer humidity. Leonard clenched his fists, desperate to shield the cracks forming in his facade. But the moment shattered. A piercing scream sliced through the air. A flash of chaos erupted nearby. Leonard's pulse raced as he turned, eyes wide. A woman collapsed at the foot of the nearest oak, her hands grasping her chest. Her face twisted in agony, eyes rolling upwards. Gasps rose among the crowd, rippling like a wave of panic. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted, voice tinged with fear. Leonard's gaze shifted, caught in a whirlwind of confusion and dread. The laughter he thought he could hide couldn't compete with the screams now ringing in his ears. Heart rates quickened, and the once carefree park transformed into a scene of shock, dread settling like a lead weight on everyone's shoulders. Samuel stepped back, watching the commotion with curious eyes, but Leonard couldn't look away from the woman. There was something eerily familiar about her face. As people crowded around, he fought through the throng like a fish against the current. He could hear the frantic murmurs, "She's not breathing," and felt the crowd pull back, creating space. He reached her just as a paramedic arrived. Leonard knelt beside her, breath hitching. It dawned on him. It was his former assistant, the one he thought he'd left behind, the one who had once believed in him. How was she here, in this park, struggling for her life? He stroked her hair, whispering her name. "Anna, stay with me." But there was no response. The demographic of the park blurred into the background. "Help! Somebody!" His voice grew hoarse, panic rising like bile. Samuel wasn't help. He watched, something dark flickering in his eyes. Then he stepped closer, stooping down. "Do you want to know the truth?" he asked low, a grotesque smile stretching his lips. "About your father?" Leonard shot him a furious glance, the words igniting a fire in his gut. "Shut up!" he snapped, the world narrowing to just Samuel's taunt, the pain of Anna's gasps ghosting in his ears. "Your life? The empire you've built? It's all based on a lie." Samuel's voice dripped with something sinister. "She knows, and she's been hunting you." A cacophony filled the air then. Sirens wailed in the distance, coming closer. Leonard flinched, consciousness blurring in a mix of disbelief, joy at the thought of help, and dread at Samuel's words. "Stop!" he shouted, desperation clawing at him. And then, without warning, Anna's eyes fluttered open. They locked onto Leonard's, wide and searching. Her lips parted. "Leonard," she croaked, barely a whisper, but the weight behind it was crushing. It wasn't a plea, it was a revelation. The murmurs grew louder, a crowd gathering to see what had unfolded. Samuel glanced around, a wicked glint in his eyes, taking in their shocked faces as if this were his grand performance. "Recognize her yet?" Samuel taunted, his smile taunting uncertainty. "She knows everything." Leonard's heart raced faster than ever. What could have turned this moment, all eyes on him, into something he never wanted? Anna struggled to speak again, as paramedics reached for her, and Leonard felt the air thicken with doubt. "You need to listen." The words hung heavy in the breeze. Truth loomed, dark and heavy. Just what did she know? Just who had Leonard allowed himself to become? The shadows lengthened as uncertainty clung to the moment. There would be no easy answer now, only a tangled web waiting to be unraveled. What lay beneath? What secrets remained? He could feel the world shift, and everything began to crack around him. The air felt almost electric, thick with uncertainty. Anna's eyes held Leonard's, searching, pleading. "You need to listen," she gasped, and those words wrapped around him like barbed wire. Time slipped, the world around them, fading into a muted blur, doused in heat and confusion. The onlookers tensed, their murmurs rising and falling like the tide. Leonard felt watched, their curious eyes digging into his skin. Who was he in this moment? The powerful mogul, or the scared boy peering into the abyss of his broken past? Rita, still fighting for consciousness beside him, stirred slightly, her brow furrowing. The sirens echoed, closer now, a heartbeat thumping louder than his own. He brushed her hair back, desperation clawing at his chest. "Stay with me, please!" Anna's gaze shifted, fear dancing in her eyes. Just then, Samuel, with that crooked smile still frozen on his face, stepped closer. "Everything covered in shiny gold has a hidden rust," he taunted, dark amusement flickering. "You thought you could bury it all?" "Shut up!" Leonard shouted, the words blurring together with the noise of chaos. But Samuel wouldn't relent. He seemed to thrive on this tension. Suddenly, Anna's voice broke through again, stronger this time. "Leonard, the truth about your father and me." Everything inside him jerked. He felt a tightening in his chest, panic racing against disbelief. "What truth?" he shouted back, his voice thick with confusion. "What do you mean?" But as she opened her mouth to speak, it was interrupted by a sudden deafening crash. An explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The park erupted into screams as bystanders scattered in every direction. Leonard shielded Anna with his body, but debris flew through the air. Debris that belonged to his own building? He could hardly process it. The majestic penthouse where he'd built his empire was now a towering inferno, silhouetted against the evening sky. Flames shot out like angry fingers grasping for more. "Your empire is burning!" Samuel laughed. the sound twisted and sharp against the cries of the crowd. "Your foundation. A house of cards." "No!" Leonard screamed, his heart racing. He staggered to his feet, panic rising. The rest of the world faded, again, just the crackle of flames and the wailing of distant sirens filling his ears. But Anna grasped his hand, her grip surprisingly firm. "Listen, you must understand. They're coming for you." Just then, as if answering her warning, a group of shadowy figures emerged from the smoke, a flash of uniforms. Leonard's breath hitched. Were they police? Or something worse? He couldn't tell. The voices were lost, mixing into a cacophony. "Stay back," the lead officer shouted, heading straight for Leonard. "You're in danger!" Leonard's heart dropped. What's happening?" "Your father's legacy," the officer began, voice thick with urgency. "It's not what you think. There are people hunting you. They were behind this explosion." Each word felt like a punch to the gut. Questions flooded his mind. His father? A man he thought he'd buried along with his past. "What do you mean? What did he do?" Before he could process any further, the crowd surged, a massive confusion and fright. Samuel's eyes glinted, watching, waiting. Then he turned, slipping away into the chaos, slipping into shadows as if he was part of the darkness itself. Leonard felt a tug at his chest. Rita, Anna, the officer, they all crowded around, and he had to choose. Escape with them, away from the chaos, or confront the layers of deception that had shrouded his life for so long. What secrets lay entwined in this mess? Was the truth buried deeper than he ever imagined? As the flames flickered and darkness closed in, he knew the answers were waiting just out of reach, hidden in the ashes of everything he thought he knew. Leonard stood there, heart racing, the world around him fading until it was just him and Samuel. The air felt thick, electric, like a storm about to break. Time stretched, each heartbeat drumming in his ears. Samuel's eyes held him, a deep well of truth, and Leonard could feel the crowd watching, breath held, waiting. And then, in an instant, everything shifted. A loud crash echoed from the street, metal on metal, a screech that sliced through the tension. The sound of a car careening out of control. People jerked around, confusion etched on their faces. Leonard's heart dropped. He turned just in time to see a shiny black SUV smash into a lamppost. Glass and debris spraying like confetti. The driver wasn't just anyone. It was his younger brother, Jake, the one person Leonard thought he'd protected from the weight of their family's dark history. Leonard's blood went cold. What was Jake doing here? Where had he come from? Panic twisted in his gut as he rushed toward the chaos, pushing through the crowd that parted like water. "Jake!" he shouted, his voice raw and desperate. Jake stumbled from the wreckage, dazed, a trickle of blood running down the side of his face. Leonard reached him through the gathering throng, the world around them snapping back into focus. Breathing hard, Leonard searched Jake's eyes, laying bare the worry and fear. He had to be okay. Samuel remained still, his expression unreadable, yet the weight of his poem lingered in the air. "It wasn't an accident," he muttered, voice low, as if sensing the truth. Leonard shot him a glare, filled with disbelief. "What do you know about it? Stay out of this." But another twist hit. Just as the paramedics rushed in, a familiar figure appeared through the crowd. Claire, Leonard's ex-wife, stepped forward, face pale and stricken. She locked eyes with Leonard, breathing fast. "Leonard, I didn't know he was driving. I tried to reach him." The words hung in the air, each syllable falling heavy. Leonard's mind raced. Claire? Here, what was she doing in this part of the city? "What do you mean you tried to reach him?" he demanded, the protective brother inside him clawing for answers. "You promised! We moved on!" But as Claire hesitated, her silence spoke volumes. Leonard's heart sank deeper. The pieces weren't just falling. They were screaming to be heard. Samuel stepped closer, his gaze steady. "There are demons in your past, Leonard. Hiding won't save you or him." "No," Leonard barked. "This isn't the time for your riddles." But Samuel's words wrapped around him like vines, squeezing tighter. The crowd whispered, shock rippling through. "Is he okay?" someone murmured. "Did you see that wreck?" "I heard they were fighting." Leonard felt the ground shift beneath him. Jake wasn't just some casualty in a meaningless crash. He was a reflection of everything Leonard had tried to shelter from the truth. The truth Samuel had spoken. A ripple of sirens wailed in the distance, closing in. Leonard felt the weight of all eyes as he stood frozen between his brother's bleeding form and the ghost of his father's memory haunting him again. Could he face what lay bare before him, or would he turn back, hiding in the shadows of his empire? A wave of nausea twisted inside him, sorrow mixed with the fierce desire to protect. As the first responders moved in, lights flashing, Leonard felt the weight of choices crashing down. What had he really built? What kind of brother stood by while the past screamed for attention? And in that moment of chaos, deep uncertainty buzzed in his veins. Everything he thought was real. Was it still true? Or had it all been a mask, hiding the cracks that ran deeper than he ever dared to admit? Leonard's heart raced, questions spinning like a whirlwind. What would happen next? Would they break or heal? Would laughter ever return, or was sorrow now the new truth? The sirens grew louder, but nothing was clearer. Leonard stood frozen, lost in Samuel's words. The sunlight dimmed, heavy with unspoken tension. Then, a loud crash echoed from the street. Metal grinding on metal. The crowd gasped. Leonard turned, his heart racing. A bus had collided with a parked car, sending shockwaves through the park. People screamed, children cried, and the world tilted on its axis. And mothers clutched their babies tightly. But in that chaos, something strange happened. Samuel's expression shifted. No longer was he the confident poet. Now his eyes widened in panic. He dropped the blanket, revealing a small, frayed backpack at his feet. Leonard's brow furrowed as he noticed a glint, a flash of metal and leather peeking out. His gut tightened. "Get back!" Samuel shouted, pointing towards the scene. The crowd was still gathering around the accident, oblivious. But Samuel's urgency was electric. Leonard's instincts kicked in. He pushed through the growing crowd, heading toward the wreckage. "Stay away! There's something." "Ha! Dangerous!" Samuel's voice cut through the noise, intense and raw, filled with fear. The park was suddenly alive with chaos. People pushed forward, wanting to see, to help. Leonard felt his breath quicken as he heard sirens wailing in the distance. The world around him was fading. Only Samuel's gaze pinned him in place. In a heartbeat, everything shifted. A flash of recognition hit Leonard. Taking a step back, everything in him jolted. He looked at Samuel, and for the first time, he saw the truth behind the weathered face and sharp eyes. The lines weren't just from hardship. They were familiar. Leonard stumbled, the ground feeling uneven beneath him. The realization slammed into him. This man, this homeless poet, bore an uncanny resemblance to a photograph he had tucked away, a childhood picture of his father. No! Leonard's voice trembled with disbelief. His heart raced as memories flashed before him. Moments of laughter, assuming they vanished with his father years ago. "I know who you are," Samuel whispered. The crowd's shouts fading around them, intimacy building amidst the chaos. "I know what happened." Just then, the bus driver emerged from the wreckage, panic in his eyes. "Someone help! The bus is leaking gas!" he yelled, pointing frantically. The crowd stirred, caught between interest and fear. But Leonard's focus remained on Samuel. His hands trembled, a cold sweat forming at the nape of his neck. "Who are you?" Leonard choked out, catching glimpses of disbelief on nearby faces. The question hung heavy, vibrating like a live wire. Samuel hesitated. His lips moved, but no sound came. Then, in a wild swirl of frantic energy, something shifted inside him. "You think you're rich? You think you know power?" he said, every word a punch. "Your father wasn't just a ghost. He is a part of this. You're more connected than you think. You just need to wake up to the truth." Leonard reeled, light-headed from the revelation. The park echoed with sirens, but inside, it felt like a storm was brewing. The pulse of the city around him morphed, the laughter of children mixing with the gathering dread. As panic swept through the park, Leonard locked eyes with Samuel. They stood at the precipice of something huge. The truth, buried deep for too long, hovered like the shattered glass below. Was Samuel truly who he believed him to be? What had been hidden until now? The shadows grew longer, darkness creeping in. Leonard's heartbeat thundered in his ears, a clock ticking down. What would he discover about his father? What hidden history intertwined their lives? Samuel's next words hung in the air, mysterious and thick, waiting to change everything. Leonard stood frozen, a storm brewing in his chest. Samuel's poem wrapped around him like a cold shroud. The crowd held its breath, and in that moment, everything shifted. Shadows deepened as the sun disappeared, leaving only gray edges behind. Leonard opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He felt exposed, raw, and then suddenly, a shout pierced through the park, shattering the somber atmosphere. A woman's voice, frantic and sharp. "Help! He's over here!" Heads turned in confusion. People scattered, the laughter and warmth replaced with an electric tension. Samuel's expression changed faster than Leonard could register. The poet's eyes widened, an instinctive fear flickering across his face. "No," Samuel whispered, shaking his head, gazing into the darkening space behind them. Before Leonard could process, a figure dashed from the trees. A man with wild, unkempt hair and wild eyes, his shirt torn and stained. He was yelling, waving his arms, desperation weighing down every movement. The crowd tensed, instinctively stepping back as the man approached, gasping and panting. "They're coming! They're coming for us!" he cried. "What are you talking about?" someone shouted from the back. The laughter and ease of the park slithered away. replaced by uncertainty and fear. But the man kept coming. The hunters, they know we're here. Leonard's heart raced. He felt the old, familiar grip of arrogance tighten, but fear flickered behind his bravado. Samuel stepped forward, confusion blending with anger. "You shouldn't be here!" "Not now!" Samuel shouted, as if warning the man. But the words only fueled more chaos. The crowd murmured, anxiety washing over them. Was this a prank? A cry for help? Leonard looked around, faces twisted with disbelief, children hiding behind parents, some filming with their phones. What had just started as an awakening was shifting into madness. Then, out of the chaos, the man stumbled closer to Leonard, eyes locking onto him with an urgency that felt like a fist to the gut. "You don't know, do you? None of us do!" His voice cracked, and the fear that gripped him seeped into the air, grabbing all attention. Every heart pounding, every pulse quickening. "Don't listen to him!" shouted Samuel, panic now evident in his words. "He's lying! Just walk away!" But the man continued, voice hoarse and wild. "It's all tied together. The money, the power. They know what you did. They're coming for you." A weight crashed upon Leonard's chest. The world around him darkened, sounds distorting into static. His thoughts spiraled in a whirling storm of confusion and terror. "What did I do?" he shouted, his composure slipping, his facade cracking. "Please, don't!" Samuel tried to intervene, reaching for Leonard, but the words caught in his throat. "Entwined with uncertainty." Ha 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 ha! He doesn't understand. And then the sirens pierced the air, sudden and sharp. Red and blue lights sliced through the park, and panic erupted. People screamed, fleeing in all directions. The hunters were here, just like the man had said. Leonard felt the ground shift beneath him. The truth clawed its way up from the darkness he thought he had buried. He stumbled back, shaking his head, trying to deny it. Was it possible? Secrets buried so deep, tied to his empire. Now, exposed and ready to unravel. Samuel's eyes locked onto Leonard's, a flicker of betrayal dancing in them. They're not just hunting the homeless. They're hunting you too. The weight of the revelation crashed down on Leonard. His empire, built on silence and greed, now teetered on the edge. The thrill of power was gone, stripped away by the haunting truths surfacing like ghosts. Chaos erupted. People fled. Panic climbed. As the sirens drew closer, Leonard stood still, heart racing, breaths shallow. Would he run or face whatever ugly truth was about to plunge into the light? The answer hung thick in the air, uncertain and terrifying as shadows engulfed the park around him. Leonard stood frozen, the weight of Samuel's words cracking through the noise around him. The sirens grew louder, and the man's frenzy was like a fiery arrow aimed right at his heart. Everything trembling inside him, faced with a truth he couldn't grasp. What was hidden? The shadows stretched longer, threatening to engulf him. Suddenly, as if the world had hit pause, a gunshot rang out, a sharp, deafening bark that sliced through the panic. The crowd jolted, screams erupting as people dove for cover. Leonard's breath hitched, eyes wide in disbelief. Samuel froze, eyes darting toward the sound. fear flashing across his features. "What was that?" someone screamed, the crowd erupting more. Leonard's heart raced, pulse pounding in his ears. He stumbled back, instinctively shielding Jake with his body. It felt as if everything hung in the air, danger ready to strike. Then a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked in black, and holding something shiny. The eerie calm in their movements sent a chill down Leonard's spine. "Get down!" Samuel shouted, his voice hoarse and urgent. Before Leonard could move, the figure raised their weapon again, aiming right at him. "You!" it hissed, voice gravelly, dripping with a venomous recognition. Leonard's mind raced, confusion mixing with terror. "Who are you?" he shouted, fingers shaking as he grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him behind a tree. "You think you can hide?" the figure sneered. "You're just like your father, full of lies." In that moment, the world around Leonard shattered. Everything he had built felt like quicksand, collapsing. The chaos of the park faded into a heavy silence, like a heavy fog rolling in. "Wake up!" Samuel shouted again. But Leonard's focus remained fixed on the figure. It was as if the stranger knew every secret buried beneath layers of deceit and pain. He felt exposed, raw. "Do you really believe your wealth can protect you?" the figure yelled, voice rising with fury. "You've lived a life of luxury while the truth suffocates." Words hit Leonard like a punch, spiraling through his mind. But before he could retaliate, a blinding flash of light illuminated the area. A camera's flash, cutting through the darkness. The crowd turned, now riveted, as a news crew pushed forward, filming the dramatic scene unfolding. Cameras clicked, capturing fear, confusion, and chaos. "You're making a big mistake," Leonard called out. But fear twisted with anger as he tried to defend himself. Samuel stepped in front, hands raised. "Don't!" But the figure laughed, a harsh sound that echoed over the sirens. "What's there to defend? A web of lies? You're not worth it." They motioned, and in the flicker of a moment, they tore off their hood. Leonard's world shattered once more. The face staring back was familiar, a haunting reflection of his past. "Emily?" he whispered, disbelief crashing around him like waves. She was his childhood friend, someone he thought had vanished long ago. "Surprised to see me?" Emily spat, venom replacing the affection he once knew. "You think you're untouchable? I've seen everything you did." A gasp spread through the crowd, eyes shifting. The moment hung heavy, charged with fire. It all spiraled back in thunderous waves, the hidden truths, buried histories. Leonard's heart raced, pounding louder than the chaos. "Emily, you don't understand," Leonard shouted, his voice breaking, desperation clawing for her to listen. But she stepped closer, rage simmering just beneath the surface. "I do understand. It all makes sense now. The lies, the money. It's time for you to pay." Just then, from somewhere in the distance, another shot echoed, a new threat closing in. The crowd recoiled, gasping together. Leonard felt the ground shift beneath him, the truth unraveling like loose thread. What lay hidden in their past? What darkness was about to consume him whole? The sirens wailed louder, the world falling apart in real time. and Emily's fury was ready to ignite everything once more. What truth would ignite next? Would Leonard survive this confrontation, or had he finally crossed a line he could never return from? Leonard stood frozen, heart pounding in his chest, as Emily's furious glare cut through the chaos. The shock from seeing her was still fresh, throbbing like a bruise. She was not just a ghost from his past, she was a living reminder of everything he had tried to forget. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer, pressing in like a storm. Samuel was tense beside him, as if he sensed the danger escalating. "What do you want?" Leonard shouted, voice shaking, filled with anger and fear. But Emily didn't answer. Instead, she pointed the gun straight at him, and time stretched around them, the world fading to a blur. Leonard's heart raced, panic rising like bile. The crowd gasped, voices rising and falling like waves crashing on shore, fear thick in the air. Suddenly, something shifted behind Emily. A shadow broke through the trees, moving fast, too fast to be controlled. A massive figure burst forward, glinting with something metallic. Leonard squinted, confusion swirling. What was happening? "Down!" someone screamed from the back. A loud bang, deep and forceful, like thunder erupting in their midst. All eyes shifted. Leonard's stomach dropped as he gasped in shock. The figure now stumbled, faltering before collapsing to the ground. A detective, badge glinting painfully under the stray sunbeams, blood seeping from a wound in his side. Emily whirled around, eyes wide, the gun wavering in her hand. "No! No!" she shrieked, panicking, but before she could even process, the crowd rushed in. Fear propelled them, people yelling, pushing, trying to escape the horror. Leonard felt his vision narrow, tunnel vision setting in. Was this chaos unraveling before him really happening? "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted, panic mixing in the air. But Leonard stood rooted, shock gripping him as he watched the detective flailing against the pavement. A painfully visceral sight that twisted his stomach. "Move!" Samuel yelled, pulling Leonard back, dragging him away from the chaotic scene. The crowd surged like a tide pulled by unseen currents, the noise rising, drowning out everything else. But within that chaos, something caught Leonard's eye. The detective, hand fumbling against his jacket, struggled to pull something out, a flash of silver. Then, with a final gasp, he managed to toss it at Leonard's feet just as the crowd swirled away, parting like waves crashing against the shore. "What is it?" Leonard breathed, knelt down and picked it up. A flash drive. A simple piece of tech, but something about it felt monumental, like it was heavy with secrets. Then everything exploded. Sirens roared, wails cutting through the air. Emily backed away, fear replacing her fury. She was panicking, her gun shaking in her hand. "You don't know what you're doing!" she shouted. But Leonard felt the heat of determination rising inside him. With eyes darting from the detective to Emily, an incredible thought struck him. "This is it," he murmured, holding the flash drive tight. "This is how everything connects." "Do not," Emily warned, voice shrill. But it was too late. A powerful gut feeling wrapped around him. The drive felt like a key to everything. The lies, the empire, the tangled history. He wasn't just facing Emily or Samuel. He was staring down the truth he'd buried deep. A truth so heavy it threatened to crush him. Ignoring her warning, Leonard pressed the side button on the drive. As the lights on the device flickered to life, a piercing scream shattered the moment. It came from behind him, piercing through the chaos. He turned, eyes wide. A figure rose from the ground, the detective, the bloodied one, who should have been gone. But he was gasping now, eyes wild, looking straight at Leonard. "Don't, I can't let you see." Shock flooded Leonard's mind, twisting it into a blur. What had just happened? Who was this detective? What secrets lay hidden in that flash drive? As the world frayed around him and the tendrils of chaos came spiraling back in, Leonard realized he was only beginning to uncover the layers of betrayal and truth. All eyes, even the ones in the crowd, were watching him, and he could feel the tension thickening, closing in tighter. What had he just unleashed? What did it mean to him? And how deep did this shadowy world go? The crowd erupted into chaos, sirens wailing all around them. Leonard grabbed the flash drive tight in his trembling hand, half breathless, as the fear in Emily's eyes mirrored his own. "Don't shoot!" he shouted, holding up the drive like a shield against the truth's impending explosion. Emily faltered, confusion flashing across her face. "You don't understand what you're holding." She stepped back, her gun wavering as chaos enveloped them. The detective still fought for breath, blood pooling beneath him, and panic hung heavy in the air. "Help is coming!" shouted one of the paramedics rushing toward the detective. "Get to safety." Leonard's heart raced, each beat echoing the weight of the past crashing down around him. "Emily, please, I can help you. I can fix this," he pleaded, desperate to reach the friend he once knew under all the anger. But the darkness in her eyes had replaced that friendship with rage. "You think you can fix this? You think you can run from the past?" she spat, voice twisting with pain. "Your father left us to rot while you lived a life of luxury. You're just like him." "Stop!" Leonard shouted back, the truth slicing through him like a knife. "I didn't know! He hid everything from me!" Suddenly, the world clicking into place, he realized the flash drive wasn't just a piece of tech. It might hold the key to redeeming their twisted histories, to understanding what had truly happened. As sirens closed in, the detective gasped out words Leonard couldn't fully process. "You need to expose him before it's too late. Otherwise, he'll keep coming for you." His voice cracked, but the urgency was there, sinking deeper into Leonard's bones. "Who will?" Leonard asked, turning back toward the figure who had once been someone he trusted. "Your father's enemies! The Hunters!" Emily screamed, stepping back as if the truth scorched her. "You can never change what he did!" But at that moment, something shifted. Samuel stepped in, unfazed by the chaos. "Leonard, don't let her twist you. Use the drive. Uncover everything. It's your story now. No more shadows." With time slipping away, Leonard pointed the drive at Emily, whose expression flickered between rage and fear. "I will uncover the truth," he declared, steeling himself against the storm brewing. The fear inside him mingled with something fierce, hope, and then the detective gasped his last breath. The world blurred, sirens drowning out the silence. But Leonard didn't falter. "Look at what your father left you! Look at the lives he wrecked!" His voice gained strength, echoing against the swirling chaos. Emily's gun dropped, clattering to the pavement. The tension in the air began to shift like a tide receding. What have we done? She whispered, breaking. Leonard rushed toward her as paramedics finally reached the detective, taking control of the scene. Let's fix this together, he urged, finding her hand trembling. We can uncover the truth. We can find justice for what's been lost. As the crowd continued to murmur, shadows flickering in and out of focus, Leonard took a deep breath. Adrenaline fading, yet shadows still dragging at the seams of reality. But even amidst that, a thought nagged at him, one that wouldn't fade easily. How deeply had they woven themselves into a tale of ruin instead of redemption? Moments later, the tension dissipated slowly, leaving only a tangled trail of questions and realizations. Shards of truth glimmered on the horizon, ready for him to seize. The weight of what lay ahead was daunting, yet flickers of hope ignited within him. Perhaps they could rewrite their endings after all. You must know this is just the beginning. Don't wait another second. Don't subscribe immediately to the channel to make sure you're here for the next mind-blowing story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We need your support. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this ending. And please share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey with you. You have to support the channel through these actions. It's vital to keep the stories coming your way. Don't miss out, everyone.